Welcome back to the Table Rush Talk Show, where we dive deep into the world of entrepreneurship, marketing, and personal growth. I'm your host, Misha Zvagansoff, and today's guest is Charles Gaudet. Did I say that right?
You did. You did.
Amazing. Charles Gaudet, the CEO of Predictable Profits. He is one of the sharpest minds in strategic growth for founders ready to scale with precision. For more than 2 decades, he's helped companies create consistent, repeatable revenue, and today he's breaking down how to engineer success that doesn't rely on hustle or hype. All right, let's dive in. You ready?
I'm ready, my man.
All right, Charles, you've been called the guy entrepreneurs turn to when they're ready to scale with precision. But before we get into your backstory, I want to talk about what you actually do and why it matters. Question number one, here we go. You've built predictable profits into the system high growth founders lean on when they want steady, scalable revenue. For anyone who's never crossed paths with you, what do you actually do for entrepreneurs, and what's the big promise behind predictable profits?
Wow, what a great way to start the show. So we work with 6, 7, and 8-figure CEOs. I do have a few 9-figure clients, but predominantly 6, 7, 8-figure CEOs that are asking themselves questions like, how do I grow my company faster? Or some months are feast, some months are famine. How do we bring more predictability into our revenue? Or the third one is, look, the company is far too dependent on me. How do we scale? So we help them with frameworks, with SOPs, with systems in order to help them get out of that founder's trap, and create sustainable, predictable growth month after month, year after year.
Amazing. So you obviously emphasize predictability. What does that look like inside a 7 or 8 figure company?
So there is a big difference between fast growth strategies and scalable strategies. And when you think about it, most people think about wanting to grow fast, and they romance this idea of being on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list. But little do they know, the Kauffman Foundation ran a study, and what they found is that 66% of all companies that get listed on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list within 5 to 8 years shrink in size, become disadvantageously sold, or go completely out of business. I could tell by the look on your face, you're pretty shocked by that stat, right?
Yes. Wow.
And that's because those founders are focusing in on growth at all costs. They're very reactive. They're less systematic and have less focused on a framework of what it actually takes. So the difference between predictability and fast growth is with predictability, it's about really having that roadmap, that step-by-step roadmap to ensure that you build that solid foundation and you build on it so that you have that consistent, sustainable growth. It's not about growth at all costs, random strategies put out there to just try to drive sales. It's about putting things in the order that you're supposed to put them in.
I love that. And if I'm hearing you correctly, you literally said, hey, the Inc. 5000 is a great goal, but the faster you get on there, the more likely you are to fail.
Well, it does depend, right? So we took a company that was doing 950,000 when they started working with us, and we took them to 46 million within 6 years. So that's pretty fast. But the difference is we did that through predictable growth strategies. So just because you're focused on predictability, it doesn't mean you have to sacrifice speed. It just means that the formula is different. It's kind of like baking a cake. When you're baking a cake, if you decide that you're going to put the sugar in last, or, you're going to skip the butter, it's going to taste totally differently than, when you bake the cake, there's a specific order in which you put the ingredients to get the outcome. So that's really what it's about. But here's the funny thing, Misha, is that the founders and the CEOs that work with us, they usually work with us after they've tried everything on their own. And they realize that it doesn't work, because it's the difference between working with, say, as a parent, teenagers and then adults. Teenagers have this idea of, if I only take 0.1% of the market, then I'm going to be, a $20 million business. And, I'm starting off at zero now, but I'm going to be 3 million by the end of the year and 10 million, and they have these like lofty dreams and they're chasing speed by, growth hacks and the latest webinar funnel and, the latest this and that. And they're just constantly chasing this elusive dream. And when they're burned out, they realize that they've gone through every single program that they thought they could have, not getting the results they want. Then they come back and they say to us, all right, what do you need to do? Because the reality is while I think growth is sexy, the strategies behind what we have to do isn't always as shiny as and exciting as the latest growth hack, but it's realistic and it's required in order to take your company to that next level. I mean, everything is built on a framework of predictability. It's not a bunch of hacks taped
I love
together.
that. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And I think for clearly for long-term sustainability, if you want to build a business that is fulfilling to you, your employees, society, if you're thinking that way, that predictable systems are the way to go. It seems though as though most CEOs are chasing tactics. There's a lot of that out there right now. You're saying, hey, chase systems. What's the mental shift that separates the two?
Well, you see my shirt, right? It's results. And part of that shift is about making data-backed decisions. So when you take an action on something, the question you should be asking yourself is, what is the measurable KPI for us to understand that it's working or not working? And then you work with alongside with the KPIs, because it's so much easier to be able to do more of what's working and less of what's not working. And instead of just, randomly piling a bunch of stuff on. So here's a metaphor that, it's funny. I shared this with a gentleman, he's actually a venture capitalist, the CEO of a venture capital company. He asked to speak with me, and he said, Charlie, the results that you and your company have been able to produce are very unusual in the industry. And I'm just curious, what is your strategy? And the metaphor that I used with him is, I said, I want you to imagine going camping. And when you go camping, this was like back in the day when you had to rub sticks together, you'd rub these sticks together and you'd run it to back and forth to try to get this little bit of a red ember. And during that time, you're going to spend more time, you're going to spend more energy, you're going to really exhaust yourself. And at the point where you want to quit more than anything in the world, all of a sudden you start to see this little bit of smoke in this little red ember. And with that red ember, it's still very, very fragile, but you put little pine needles and little bits of birch until you get this flame. And now that you get this flame, you get this bit of momentum. It's exciting. So then you add a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit of more fuel until you get a bonfire. And then if you continue to add fuel, things get bigger and bigger and bigger until you have this fire that's so large that even if you tried to throw water on it, you can't extinguish the fire because it's so large. That's the theory of momentum. Businesses don't die because of a lack of a bad idea. Businesses die because of lack of momentum. Your first goal is to get as much momentum as you possibly can in order to create that survival. So optimization is adding more fuel to that fire and creating much more of that momentum. And when I shared that to the CEO of the venture capital firm, he started yelling, "You effing get it. You effing get it. Oh my God, you effing get it." So, that's, of course, he didn't use effing. He used the full word.
Of course.
But that's, Richard Branson famously said, if you know how to leverage momentum, you're going to leave your competitors trailing in your wake. So it's really, how do you leverage that momentum? But that's what we're talking about here. When I say, it's less sexy because it's less about saying, here's this latest, software and hack and this and that, blah, blah. It's like, let's take a look at your data. Let's figure out where in your strategy things are working, where in your strategy things need improvement. Let's turn a few dials. Let's fix it. Let's get it working. And then let's throw some gas on this fire and let's really, blow this thing up. And let's track it to make sure that things are working well. And when they start not to work well, we can adapt quickly, solve it, and keep going. That's how you build real businesses.
I love it. It gets lost. Everybody watching, listening, if you're grooving on what Charles is talking about, Charlie, it sounds like
Oh, Charles or Charlie, either one I'll take.
Perfect. Go to predictableprofits.com, predictableprofits.com, the exclusive community for 6, 7, and 8-figure founders. You can join that community for free. There's a bunch of great content there. I noticed that you're standing up while you're on this interview. Is that you work 100% of the day standing up? Where's that come from? Where'd that originate? Why? Talk to that.
Well, at some point, I might even sit down at some point here, in this interview. But really, I get paid in direct proportion to my ability to think, right? And so for me, it's about optimizing my mind and body always. And so sitting all day creates a little bit of lethargy. Maybe I said it right. Lethargy, something like that.
Lethargy. Yeah, lethargy.
We'll
I
go
think
with
that's
that.
right. Lethargy. Yeah.
Yeah. And that hinders my ability to think clearly. Now, here's a little secret that I don't talk about on every podcast that I'm on. But when I was a child, I was diagnosed as having one of the worst cases of learning disabilities that the doctor had ever seen. In fact, I remember standing there with my back against the door. My mother was sitting on the couch with the doctor, and the doctor shared that to my mother, and she followed that up with, "I'm really surprised that your son can function in a regular school." I was immediately flush with emotions. I get in the car and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I knew I was different, but I didn't realize I was dumb. That's the way that I interpreted it. And so I was silent and I didn't say a thing. I was just fighting tears because I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of my mother. And my mom said something to me, and I will take this to my grave. I will never ask her if this is true, ever, because I fear that she'll tell me it wasn't, and then it will change the whole story that I've lived with for the rest of my life. But my mom said to me, she's like, "Charlie, you didn't hear the whole story." I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "The doctor also said you had one of the highest IQs that she had ever seen of anybody she has ever interviewed. That's why you're able to function in a regular school. And that's why you've been able to do the things that otherwise shouldn't be possible for you." And I held on to that. And so that's what took me to where I am now, that story. But the important thing to understand about that story, though, is every day I wake up and I am very, very intentional with what I need to do to optimize my energy and my brain. So it's my exercise, it's my supplementation. I had this formulated for me. It's called Founder's Fuel. So I had this formulated for me by one of the leading longevity and functional medicine experts in the world. He formulated Founder's Fuel for me, and it allows me to have this incredible amounts of focus. So it actually became an accidental company. So this is another company. Enough people tried it that they asked if they could get some, that we just decided, well, we'll create a website. We'll put it up there. If anybody wants it, great. And if they don't, then I have a few thousand bottles for myself. But it's really, it has the highest grade ingredients, the best manufacturing process. It's actually a patented manufacturing process, the whole deal, again, to help me focus. The food I put in my body, the sleep that I get at night, everything is all triggered to say what needs to happen in order for me to maximize my brain, because my clients are expecting me to show up and deliver these results. I've worked with companies, some of them I don't know how much I'm allowed to say or who some of these companies are, but it's brands that you know. I mean, we're talking one of them recently, several billion-dollar CEO, and like when they get on the phone with me, it's not about how much they're paying me. When they get on the phone with me, it's this has to be a good use of my time. So I have to be able to think and deliver during those moments. But every superpower has, or every kryptonite has a superpower and vice versa, right? So even though I might have these learning disabilities, and by the way, part of that kryptonite is I've left my luggage behind 6 times at the airport. I'm the only guy you might know that actually comes home after travel. And I go to my wife and I'm like, you proud of me? I remembered to take my luggage home with me. um, but then, but the superpower is I spoke to Dr. He wrote the book Driven, Doug Brackman. And he was talking about my brain. And he says, because I take in this much information, like a wide swath of information, that it comes in and then I can just sort it through and see what works and what doesn't work and kind of spits out in the back. So that became my superpower. So it might be difficult for me in some ways where I can't even remember my own luggage at the airport, but then powerful in another way where we can create strategies and see opportunities that most people inevitably will miss.
That's cool. You know what's cool about that too? I think there's this idea in the world that well, how do I want to say this? It's almost like you were you have to function in the world this way. Where a lot of people are like, if I function this way, but it's not their natural state. It
Yep.
isn't their optimal performance mode or style, but for you it is. Does that make sense? Kind
Yeah.
of.
They have, ever since I was a kid, doctors have wanted to medicate me and make me just conform with everybody else. And admittedly, I tried I tried Ritalin, I tried Adderall, I tried doing all the things that the doctors told me that I needed to do. And I hated it. Hated it for a number of reasons. One of them is it took my energy down. And, here's the thing. Have you ever seen a depressed, hyperactive person? Like somebody literally bouncing off the walls. Try bouncing off the walls and being depressed at the same time. It is very difficult to do. Right. So when I was on Adderall and Ritalin, my energy came down and I instantly became depressed. So I didn't like that. So being where I'm at now and my energy is really high, now I'm happy. Right. But so, yeah, it's when people try to put you in a box and try to lock you in. The Chinese figured this out a long time ago with the yin yang. Every negative has an equal and opposite positive and vice versa. Right. And so when you think about that, that applies to everything, both personally, in business, in life, everything. Every challenge has an equal and opposite opportunity. So in my personal life, I'll look at things and, with my learning disabilities, I'll ask, where has this served me? And I can see where it has served me. And to the extent of the challenge is equal to the extent of the reward. So because my learning disabilities were so severe, my reward is actually proportionate. I'm able to do things that most people can't do, which is kind of cool. But I'll struggle through other parts in life that most people just don't even consider. We look at business. When COVID happened, perfect example was a CEO of a global travel company. He called me up and he said, his hair is all disheveled. And he said, Charlie, look, I trust you. We've been working together for a while. I just need your permission to close down the company. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I only get paid to put people on a plane. I run an international travel company. Planes are grounded. I can't put people on a plane. We're losing money every single day. My competitors, doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year, have already closed the doors and gone out of business. I just need you to tell me to close a business down, and I will do it today. And I said, well, it sounds to me like this is one of the best times in the world for you to be in business. And he said, what? I said, wait, maybe things are different in the United States. Well, let me tell you what's going on here. And I'm like, no. I know exactly what's going on. But every challenge comes with it an equal and opposite opportunity. This challenge is massive. We need to ask ourselves different questions if we want to get better answers. So let's start asking ourselves different questions. Are people still opening your emails? Yes. Are they still clicking on the emails? Yes. So would they still like to travel if they could? Yes. The problem is they can't get on the plane. Right. But what message needs to be told to them that will make them feel comfortable putting in a credit card and buying? I don't know. Do you think it's possible that everybody will want to fly when the borders open up? Yeah, it will. And the problem is getting in line first, because everybody's going to want to go out the door. Right. And you can help them plan this thing so much better now that they have more time. Yes. And pass discounts to them as they become available. Yes. Let's change that message to meet the market and see what happens. He broke every daily, weekly, monthly sales record, making him the #1 most successful company in the entire world within his niche. So every challenge comes with an equal and opposite opportunity. Right? And that's where we have to just realize that. And sometimes if we want better answers, we have to be able to ask better questions.
So good. I'm going to go off script a little bit here. Um, you can be a lot, I'm guessing, where people are like, wow, Charles is got a lot of energy. Yeah.
Yeah, ask my wife.
Well, I was going to say, so I guess, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
48.
48. So at this point, you've come to terms with who you are. Obviously, you've got your founder's fuel. You're like, I'm embracing this. This is who I am. How do you create that healthy boundary with your wife? I'm imagining you have a couple kids.
3.
3. So does that make sense? It's like, well, I got to recharge sometimes, but I don't want to like overpower my family. Like, how do you walk that tightrope? Does that question make sense?
It does make sense. It comes with challenges, naturally, but I think it was maybe a bigger challenge in the beginning of my relationship, because I can be difficult to live with, right? However, then it would just became, rather than looking at my energy and I have a very intense type of personality, rather than looking at that as a negative, it was reframed as a positive. So the people in your life, she had to accept me who I was. She knew who I was when we were dating, right? She got that idea. I mean, uh, even before we got married. So I was 20. I think I was 22 when I made the decision. So I was single, 22. I made a decision to buy a real estate development. I had to borrow hard money. I put myself in uh, way over $1 million in debt. I'm paying double-digit interest rates. I had to work. Well, I believed I had to work every waking hour of every day in order to pay off the debt and everything else. So here's this guy. How many 22-year-olds do you know that willingly put themselves in over $1 million in debt? And that it wasn't even my first business, right? So we co-founded a business prior to that was nominated by Ernst & Young as being one of the nation's best seed stage companies. So she'd been down that entrepreneurial journey with me. She'll be the first one to tell anybody that I'm not normal, and that I'm a handful, but I'm her handful. And the differences make me interesting, right?
Mm.
So my kids will tell you that dad needs to go through patience college to learn some patience. My kids will tell me that dad needs to do sensitivity training because sometimes I will just be too quick. But my kids will also tell you that I'm a cool dad, right? Because I always make sure I make it a priority to be there with them and to be present with them, to support them, whatever their endeavors are. And and we have a really, really good relationship
It's beautiful.
among its ups and downs.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate that.
If there's one superpower, there's one superpower that everybody can have that I've learned, but I've only learned it after going through a period of really dark, dark, dark times, is gratitude. When you can sit there in gratitude, even in those moments when every rational bone in your body tells you that it's not, there's no good that can come out of this. I mean, we're getting vulnerable here, so I'll tell you another story. When people talk about hitting rock bottom, they don't know rock bottom until they no longer want to be on this earth. And there was a point in time in my life where I remember driving in the car and giving a silent prayer that somebody would hit me head on and finish the job for me because I didn't have the courage to do it myself. And when you're in that point in life when you just don't want to be on this earth anymore, that is rock bottom. When you're praying that your life will be over, that is rock bottom. And I remember coming home and sitting there, and then something happened, and I just tried to be grateful for the position that I was in. That I still had a healthy family, that we still had a roof over our head, that I still had my health. And shortly thereafter, I managed to create the breakthrough that I was looking for. But even like when my dad died, which was one of the most painful moments of my entire life, I found out he passed. And sadly, I had to be the one that made the call because the doctor called me and said, this is what happened and there's no chance. And, we need permission. And so I knew it was inevitable. And I got the call that he passed. And I walked in my office and I am legless, crying so hard. It literally the most painful experience of my entire life. And I made a promise to myself that I would not leave my room, would not leave my office until I could be grateful for this situation. How can you be grateful for your hero, your world, like everything passing? How can I be? And I had such a hard time rationalizing, how can I be grateful for this? But I got myself into that place and then left the office. And because here's why gratitude is so powerful. You can be in a position of power in gratitude. It is a central emotion. Love has vulnerabilities. Hatred has vulnerabilities. Gratitude is the only center emotion. So my team, when I'm meeting with my team and something happens, let's say there's we have a client that surprisingly ended up putting their notice in that they're leaving us or whatnot, whatever that might happen. While the natural inclination is, oh my God, I can't believe this happened, blah, blah. I turn around and go, why is that the best thing in the world to happen to us right now? And they look at me like I have two heads every single time. But it's like, why is that the best thing that can happen to us right now? And we'll come to an answer, we'll figure it out, and we'll always find a way in which we can make the company that much better, that much stronger, and so forth by coming at it from a position of power. And so for all your listeners here, anything, their challenges, even their rewards, bring yourself to a position of gratitude, because we talked earlier about having that strong mental fortitude to make great decisions. If you want the strongest mental fortitude you can have to make those clear decisions, be in that place of gratitude as you're making decisions.
That's so good. It's such a powerful thought or an interesting thought. Gratitude is the only central emotion. I think is how you said that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Love has its vulnerabilities. Did you say anger has its vulnerabilities?
Hate and anger has the vulnerabilities. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have quick in 10 seconds or less, do you have a like a gratitude mantra that you say in the moment these days or something to quick get to that spot?
Um, no, I just actually just start repeating thank you and thanks. Sometimes I don't even know who I'm thanking, but I just thank you. Sometimes I'm thanking myself,
Mm,
right? But it's just thank you. Usually hold my hand over my chest and just kind of feel it.
mm. I love that. It can be as simple as that. So this hitting bottom moment, this I want to end my life moment, sounds like your dad passing is right in that mix as well.
Oh,
Is that the
that was a different
Oh,
moment.
that was a different that
That
was a
was a
different
different
moment.
moment. That was a different moment.
That
I
was
know.
yeah, that was pre. So dad passes, you're like, oh, I gotta sort this. How do I find gratitude for that? I think that is such a powerful meditation as well on anything that happens to us in life or circumstances that are happening now where we go, that isn't right in the world. It's like, well, how do we find beauty in that or gratitude, things like that? It's an interesting
Yeah.
meditation, I think. But let's press on. I want to know the moment where predictable profits is birthed. So it sounds like it's like you're driving down the road, you know, hit me with the car already. I got to
Yeah.
change things. Is that the birth moment or?
Well, that was that down moment, that was many years ago during a period where it just seemed like, I just financially just things weren't lining up and it was just, I couldn't take care of my family and everything else and it was a very dark, scary time because I felt powerless and helpless and I didn't think there was any chance I could get out. I was in over 200,000 in credit card debt. Like it was
Mm,
just, it was
mm.
bad.
That's heavy.
Oh gosh, it was super heavy. But then, um, it was 2010. So I just wrapped up with another business that I ran. It was 2010, and I had continued to build and grow different companies throughout my life. In 2010, somebody offered to pay me to help them grow their business, and I was like, "Huh, well, okay, I guess." And so I started doing it, and I liked it. And then I decided, well, let me see if I can do it for somebody else. And I did it for somebody else, and I liked it. I go, let me do it again. And I realized that I was actually really good at it. And I helped somebody who was doing about $250,000 a year. I took them to 4.6 million very quickly. In fact, I made them 1.1 million in 10 days. And I realized that I had a knack for something that I didn't realize I had. And that sort of became the foundation of predictable profits. And yeah, that's I guess how we did it. And I've loved it ever since. It's a massive passion of mine.
Amazing. Let's paint the picture. Who's the entrepreneur you light up to serve? Who lands on predictable profits? Anybody watching and listening, go to predictableprofits.com and thinks, this is exactly what I've been missing.
Well, it is the ambitious founder CEO that ultimately believes that you get paid in direct proportion to the value that you provide others. So if you are the type of person that um, wants to build a business of excellence, a business of greatness, not only want to deliver an outcome that will transform the lives of your clients, but you want to build a culture that will transform the lives of your team, your employees, your vendors. Those are the people that I love working with because we can grow some massive companies, but we can change the world by helping those people who create these big companies, um, do so through their clients and through their teams. because
Mm.
with power comes responsibility.
I'm looking at predictableprofits.com. I see a button, a yellow button over on the right that says schedule your free diagnostic. What's going on there? Is that for someone who's listening right now and says, "Ooh, I want to talk to someone live," or what is that?
So we're likely going to be changing that here soon to offer a different call to action. That diagnostic basically helps people go from, I don't know what's the next thing I should be focusing in on, to really pointing down, here's the most important thing you have to be focusing in on next. What that likely is going to transition to is a position that's going to take them to a link where their super consumer is. And they're going to be able, so what they're going to be able to do in that moment, the first step is understanding who their best buyers are. Now, when you think about it, you might think you know who your ICP is. ICP is an ideal client profile. In business school, that's what they teach you, ideal client profile. But that's based on a fictional sort of client and customer. When you are about $1 million and you start getting that data, you know who your best buyers are. If all you were to do was just turn around and add more of your best buyers, you would have an immediate impact into your revenue and profits. So we'll show you the real deep profile of what that person looks like. And when they fill out that form, it's going to take them into there's a direct API into a custom AI bot that I built that's trained on over 11 million characters of our information that will go through, research their website, their competitors, the industry, the buyer's journey. It will pull information from multiple LLMs, not just one, synthesize that information, and then generate a report. I should be charging for that, but I want to give people a taste of what they're missing out on by not asking the right questions and having the right information. And so it goes really, really deep. If they were to pay a market research firm for that information, I've had other people tell me that they would have paid $15,000 to $20,000 for that information for a market research firm, and we'll give it to them, for
Hey,
free.
that's quite a lead magnet.
That's pretty dope. It's pretty wild. So with any luck, that will be up by the end of the week, actually.
Oh, fantastic. So, do we know what it's going to say? Do we know what that button's going to say? So, anybody watching, listening now, go
You're the
to,
first to know.
I'm the first to know. Amazing.
Yeah.
So, check it out. We've got a CEO. We've got some founders, 6, 7, 8 figures. They're butting up against that growth in their hearing systems. They're hearing what you're saying. What is stopping that person from saying, all right, let me apply what you're talking about? Does that make sense?
It does. Almost always, they feel they don't have enough time. They're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and they just don't feel like they have enough time. The reality is that's more of a reason why they need to work with us, because they're stuck in the founder's trap. The founder's trap basically is this position where your success has brought you to a point where you are so successful you fell into the trap. Like, you can only get into the trap when you actually reach a certain level of success. And the founder's trap means that the entire business is basically, it's dependent on you. If you think about it, your marketing depends on you for your word of mouth and referrals. Your sales depends on you for closing. Your operations depend on you. Client delivery depends on you to get involved and sign off. Like, you are at the center of the entire org chart. And so the idea of taking on more is daunting, and people have this belief that they can outwork their way out of the founder's trap, but it doesn't work like that. Actually, the harder they work, the more successful they are. The deeper they fall in the trap, the more expensive it is to get out, and the harder it is to get out. And you can't outwork yourself out of the founder's trap. At some point, you get yourself in enough pain, enough desperation, or it just costs enough that you finally get yourself out, or you decide to call it quits, hold up the red flag, and sell the business because you just can't get out. So that's what we do, is we actually work with those founders to get them out of that founder's trap. And there's this instant breakthrough moment. And that's those results that we share, that breakthrough, that escalation, that going from 950,000 to 46 million. Like, not everybody is going to reach that level and that speed of growth, But that acceleration happens as a result of getting out of that founder's trap, removing yourself from everything.
That's got to be quite a thing. What is going through a founder's head is there as they've made that commitment? All right, I'm ready to exit the founder's trap or be free of the founder's trap, and I need to start relinquishing or building systems. Like, it sounds easy, but it's got to be horrifying as you're screaming into that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, most people come to us because they think they need more leads, they need more sales. There's too much up and downs and unpredictability in their revenue, or they know the company's too dependent on them. What they think they need, or what they want, and what they need are two different things. Most people are shocked. Like, you should see the looks in their face when they think they need something. And then we look at them, metaphorically speaking, and we say, hey, lift your foot. You're standing on the hose. You're trying to get more water out of the other end of the hose by turning the sprocket, but you're standing on it. Lift that foot and look what happens. And it's like, boom. And they're like, how did I miss that? We grew two of the largest coaching companies in the world within their niche. Or I don't want to say we contributed, we coached and helped grow. And one of the CEOs of these coaching companies, he said to me, you know why I hired you? I mean, this guy gives the same advice, or not same, but similar advice to his clients, but yet he still hired me. He goes, you know why I hired you? I go, why is this? He goes, because your mouth is 1 inch from your nose, but it takes somebody else to tell you have bad breath. And I'm like, wow, what a good metaphor. But that's the thing. Like, so many people think one way, that this is what they need. This is what they need. They convince themselves and they need, but the biggest, brightest, hairiest opportunity is right in front of them most times. Sometimes that is, this was the conversation I had yesterday, before you and I spoke yesterday. It was, you think you have a problem with your outbound marketing, but go to your website. This is the problem with your website. You fix this and the outbound will start to work because you're looking at the wrong thing. And the light bulb moment went off and he realized, oh, shoot. We had one of the biggest business media companies in the world. They brought me in and they asked me to work with this CRO. They said, we need more leads. We need more leads. We need more leads. He was convinced he needed more leads. And so I said, I don't believe in letting the patient diagnose themselves. I don't believe in letting the patient diagnose themselves. So if I may, let me ask you a few questions. Just go ahead. And they walked me through and I said, buddy, your sales team is setting appointments, but nobody's sending out calendar reminders that the appointment's there. You're expecting your people, your prospectors to remember, or the clients, the prospects to remember, I have a call on Tuesday at 12 p.m. Nobody's sending calendar invites. Nobody's doing anything. The moment we fixed that, they realized they had too many leads and not enough salespeople to answer the phones.
Sometimes it's so frighteningly simple.
Oh my gosh. And even small companies, when they're like, but I don't get enough emails. I don't get enough this and that. And it's like, let's look at the messaging on your website. This is what's going on. This is your super consumer. This is what's going on. Change this and watch what happens. And they change it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, it was that simple. Look, lead generation shouldn't be hard. Sales shouldn't be hard. But if you're if people are coming and they're not converting, it's because the message isn't resonating. You get the right message with the right audience, it's inevitable that they're going to submit their information. It's not as hard as people think. It's hard. It's not easy, but it's not impossible.
I love that. All right, we're going to switch gears into the practical rapid fire nuggets founders can actually use.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
What's a boring habit that makes your business unshakable?
Data.
Ooh, give me 10 seconds on data.
Know your KPIs in the context of of the operating system. So take marketing. How effective are you at creating demand? How effective are you at capturing demand? How effective are you in nurturing demand? People track KPIs. They don't have it in the context. Therefore, they don't really know what to do with it or how to use that to the benefit of their business. Have the right KPIs in the context of the right framework, and it's like turning the light on in your office for the first time.
Amazing. KPI, key performance indicator, for anyone who's like, what the heck's a KPI? What, which leads into question number two. Amazingly, what KPI is most overrated and what's underrated?
Which one would be overrated? I'm going to say revenue is overrated, right? Because who cares? Imagine if the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list was actually based on profit. Like, it'd be different, right?
It would be different.
It would be different, but it's based on revenue, right? So revenue is overrated, and underrated would be MRR, monthly recurring revenue. Every business, regardless of their industry, should have at least 50% of their income coming in as a result of recurring revenue. If you're thinking there's no chance your business is different, please don't make this, I don't want to trigger you, but you're wrong. Every business, regardless of industry, has the opportunity to have at least 50% of their revenue being recurring.
And I'm guessing in 10 seconds or less that you can help people find that MRR opportunity in their business.
And that's part of the framework, yes.
Amazing. Best question a CEO can ask their team this week.
The best question, if you were CEO, what would you be doing differently if you were me?
Number one answer you think you would get.
Well, I did ask my team this. And they told me that our marketing strategy was still too complicated and they wanted to simplify it further.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
Well, but the thing is, my mouth is 1 inch from my nose, but it takes somebody else to tell me I have bad breath. This is what I do for a living. I teach I coach all these businesses. And so when my team said this, I said, so what do you propose? And they shared it with me. And I said, that sounds rational. There are reasons and results. The only thing that matters are the results. We don't know the results unless we test it. So you have my blessing to test it, and let's see what happens.
That's
If
amazing.
your team, you have to give your team permission to fail. If you don't give them permission to fail, you're never going to innovate and get these breakthroughs, right? So unless we have the data to support yay or nay, give them the flexibility to test it, knowing that it may not work, but you just don't know unless you try.
It's good. What's your go-to ritual before a big decision?
Well, gratitude, and then at the same time, I'll also, gratitude, exercise, making sure I have clear mind, and then visualization. I do a lot of visualization. What is the outcome that I want? Visualize it actually happening. And then it allows me to actually go into the meeting with far more intention rather than being reactive.
I think most CEOs, leaders, or maybe people who are trying to achieve that or have some sort of success would be shocked at the amount of time pro athletes of all sorts visualize their success, visualize the move, the bob, the weave, the run, the ski run. You know what I'm saying?
It happens very often.
Okay, we're going to keep the momentum going. Rapid fire round. First thing that comes to mind, coffee or matcha?
Coffee.
Early morning deep work or late night strategy sessions?
Early morning, all day long.
Spreadsheet or whiteboard?
Spreadsheet.
By yourself or cranking on spreadsheets with others?
By myself.
It's good. One word to describe your leadership style.
Ambitious. That's where that comes to, though my team would actually say ins- my team would say inspiring.
It's nice. What a gift. Secret entrepreneurial superpower.
ADHD or learning disabilities, dyslexia. I got a bunch of them. Let's just put the whole package of learning disabilities.
Okay, time for data share. And you already went a little into some of this stuff, but what's a failure you're grateful for?
Um, it's the problem is not thinking about a failure. The problem is thinking which one of the failures, because there was many failures. Um, I just say probably there was one time one of my employees fired me. I was in the Cayman Islands and I was working because I thought I needed to. And he called me up and he said, "Boss, with all due respect, you're fired." And I go, "What? What are you talking about?" And he said, "You are inadvertently disempowering the entire team. We all feel like you don't trust us, and this isn't good for us or the culture. And we would like it if you would trust us and stop working, so you could give us a chance to prove to you that we're capable." And so, yeah, it was a failure in leadership for me because my team for a while just felt like I didn't trust them, and so that was a big moment for us.
Nice. Turning point for the better, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
When did you last doubt your own advice?
Mm. Well, I'll tell you, my gut says that, I know, like a few seconds ago. And I only say that because somebody in the media once asked me, "When do you stop becoming an expert?" And I said, "When you stop learning." Um, and so I'm humble enough to recognize that I don't walk on water. And I, I always want to believe that I could always, whatever I do, I could always be that much better. And that it's so the advice that I give, I know is awesome, but at the same time, it's like, I know I can always be even, I can create it even better. Like it could be that much more awesome.
Mm.
So, yeah, I guess, I mean, there's always a moment where I'm open-minded. Sometimes the best answers I get are actually from, if you look at an org chart, like the lowest ranking person on the org chart,
Mm.
right? So it's like I'm humble enough to recognize that regardless of how much experience or the hundreds of millions or even billions that I've helped others create, that um, at the end of the day, like I still don't walk on water.
I got a few more questions. I know we're butting up on time here, so I've got a couple more fun ones.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's a belief you've completely reversed in the last year?
Well, this is actually inspired by my chief of staff. He said to me, we're in California, and he said, "Hey, Charlie, with all due respect, you're not that smart." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, where's this conversation going?" And he said, he goes, "No, hear me out for a second." He said, "You think you need to do more than you actually need to do. And the result is that we need you for 20% of the most important things. Sometimes 10%, sometimes 5%, but your zone of genius is where we need you and why we're where we're at, but we don't need you for 100%. And so I'd like you to let us run with the vast majority of these initiatives and take it to you when we need that last bit." So it's a bookend. So they might need me for the first 5 to 10% of the conversation. Then they don't need me until the last 5 to 10% of the conversation. And that's one of the things that I reverse. I used to be involved in the whole thing, and now I'm not involved. And the company's been that much better for it.
When's the last time you changed your mind publicly?
Oh, I have no problem changing my mind. I meet with my board of directors. So we have a client base called our board of directors, some of the top 7 and 8 figure companies around the world. And we'll share strategies, and especially with all the disruption going on in AI and whatnot right now. And I will pose something in front of the group, and they'll say, "What do you think about that?" And I'm like, "Ooh, that's really good. Let's layer that and change this, and let's blah blah blah." And so it's a collective thing. Here's one big thing that we've learned. Our biggest breakthroughs, by far, far, far and away, have never been created in a vacuum. There's nothing that I have done by myself that has been a massive breakthrough. All of our biggest breakthroughs have come as a result of collaboration, whether that's collaboration with my clients or whether that's collaboration with my team. It has never, ever been done solo.
Last question. What does peace look like to you these days?
Peace is being with, it's just being with my family and present and smiling and healthy and loving and on the water. On the water or on the beach, that really helps.
On the water, is that like surfing, or is that what's on the water? Fishing? What are you doing?
Yeah, on the boat.
On the boat. Cool.
Yeah.
Love it. And your kids are how old?
I have a 7th grader, a junior in high school, and a freshman in college.
Good times. Good times. All right, Charles, for anyone ready to build predictable growth without burnout, where can they go to connect and take the next step?
Predictableprofits.com. Again, that's predictableprofits.com. There's also a link on the website for my book for those who are interested in learning more. You can also follow me along on my podcast at the Beyond 7 Figures podcast. Again, that's Beyond 7 Figures podcast. You're also welcome to connect with me over on LinkedIn at Charles Gaudet. When you are on LinkedIn, if you want me to accept you, though, you have to tell me that you listen to this podcast so that so that I know where it came from. And yeah, so predictableprofits.com. And you can also check out foundersfuel.co if you want to see what that's like. We talked about that earlier. So, foundersfuel.co if you want to see what that's all about.
Beautiful. Plenty of choices. Links for all of that will be in the show notes. And that's a wrap on this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. Big thanks to Charles Gaudet for bringing the heat on scaling smart and leading with clarity and being vulnerable in this If this conversation sparks something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and check out predictableprofits.com to go deeper. Until next time, stay focused, stay bold, and let's go speak on some podcasts. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.